It's Tuesday of week 9. Our work for today is going to be to work on activity 4, and then we're also going to move into working on module 4. So in this video, I'll introduce activity 4 and then introduce and walk through the 4 required activities of module 4, our second module with Photoshop, and there are also 3 extra credit possibilities for module 4. Activity 4 is due today by 5 o'clock, and as with the other activities, it shouldn't take you more than an hour. For activity 4, we're going to use PowerPoint to create an album release party flyer. PowerPoint is an exceptionally flexible tool for creating, of course, slideshow presentations, but it's also a great tool for creating flyers, posters, and other documents that you need to easily create and potentially share, archive, and update. For instance, to engage MSU's brand standards and provide flexible tools for all the programs and departments in the College of Arts and Letters, Cal offers a set of standard flyers designed in PowerPoint for everyone to easily download, edit, and use. Very few faculty or staff in Cal know how to use InDesign or how to create and package an InDesign project, but almost all know how to use PowerPoint. There are a handful of steps to getting started on activity 4, and all of the steps I'm going to run through right now are saved in a 1-page activity 4 assignment on D2L in the week 9 Tuesday folder. First, you're going to go to Wikipedia and click on the random article link on the left navigation. The title of the first random article that pops up is your band name. Next, head to a quotation generator page, and the direct link is included again in the 1-page assignment on D2L. The last 4 or 5 words of the very last quote on the random page of random quotes that shows up when you hit that page is your album title. Next, go to Flickr. In the search box, type in some or all of the fictitious album title you just generated. The first picture, no matter what it is your album cover. Now that you have these elements, launch PowerPoint and create an album release party flyer in PowerPoint. You'll need to create some other details like where will the party be? Will it be online in Zoom, on Facebook Live, at a local bar, and when the party will be. Once you've created your flyer and you're happy with it, I'd like you to try saving the final flyer 2 different ways. First, by printing to PDF, so File, Print PDF. And then a second version by saving to PDF, File, Save PDF. And compare the 2 files that are output. See if you notice any differences between the 2 PDFs. Choose one version to turn in and upload on D2L by 5 o'clock today. And into more design work and module 4, our second Photoshop module. With module 3, we got comfortable with opening and saving images, thinking about image size and resolution, negotiating screen and print dynamics, deploying filters, working with color, merging images, and representing a complex idea visually. For module 4, you'll apply what you learned in module 3 and also do some more work editing images, but also creating images. We'll work with text in Photoshop, we'll create visual arguments, we'll make something really, really ugly, and we'll prepare and edit screen captures and embed them in a set of instructions. And there are also 3 extra credit activities offered in module 4. A few quick reminders. Be sure you're working in RGB or screen mode in Photoshop. Work on your images at 100%, at least initially, but zoom in and out as need be. And save your work as either PNG or JPG. For activity 1 in module 4, we're going to make pictures with and through words. And here are some past student examples. Colorful, groovy, and I love the work this designer did to perfectly place Austin Powers' eyes at the top of each O. Live. And again, incredible placement. This designer adjusted the dot over the I of live so that the hand is perfectly centered. Spooky. And what a great font face to illustrate the idea of spookiness. Fierce. And I love how this designer broke the word into 2 pieces so we can see more of the wolf's face. All lives matter. This is both a textual illustration and a compelling visual argument. The expanse of space between the man holding his hands up on the left and the police with their guns pointed at him on the right is really powerful. I wanted to walk you through the steps of creating this sort of image, and the steps are also included and described step by step in the Module 4 assignment. I wanted to work with a verb, specifically vote. And I had a sense that I wanted an illustration with hands raised, maybe stars. So I Google image search and found a bunch of stuff and finally identified a graphic I really liked. It's here in the top right. I downloaded it. I added star shapes on each hand, and then I adjusted the brightness contrast to a slightly darker, more true red and blue. I changed the background to a buttery yellow. Next, I knew I needed a font face for the word vote. I went to one of the font download tools we use for Module 2, DeVoss, and searched for American just to see what might come up. A bunch of 4 paid commercial fonts showed up and a list of 49 free fonts. A lot that were too busy and kind of literal. Some were way too thin to work well with this activity. I knew I needed a heavier, bolder font face. What I often create when I'm working on a project is a font spec sheet in Word so I can easily manage and save the font faces I'm working with. Photoshop will save fonts if you save in Photoshop format with layers. But once you flatten an image and save it as a PNG or JPEG, you lose those layers and the fonts you use. And I can't tell you guys how many times I've opened an image to do some revisions and I couldn't remember what font face I used in the original. This is a spec sheet I created in Word when I was choosing ampersands for tattoos, and I wanted to see them side by side and remember which font face and which ampersands I liked the most. This is a spec sheet I created when I was designing the cover of a book I was working on. And Word just makes it a little bit easier to see font faces side by side, and Word remembers which font face is which better than Photoshop can do. Back to the font. I eventually found American Label and really liked its vintage Americana feel. In playing with it, I found the strip and rough versions, that's 2 or 3 here, too distracting. And it didn't really work with the crisp, clean graphic of the hands and stars. And I also found that the capital letters were way too detailed. Look at the capital L in the mock-up graphic below on the screen here. So I used all lowercase. I used the type mask tool and the standard American Label font to create this graphic. I added a subtle drop shadow to create more contrast between the yellow background and the white I knew the graphic would appear on. So that's activity 1 of Module 4. And again, the technical steps for Photoshop are step by step in the Module 4 assignment itself. Activity 2 asks you to create a visual argument. Think about our class readings and our videos. Think about the world we live in today and what issues are concerning or compelling. Here are a few student examples. Google puts so much info at our disposal that we forget that it's emotions we're after. I want to pause for a minute and talk about how this visual argument was made. The designer found a high-resolution, large-size keyboard image, and then probably in Photoshop made a copy of it, and then copied and pasted the keys over the actual keys in the original to spell out the expression. And another, to prove your worth. So how did the designer create this argument about how we in our culture use multiple choice generic Scantron tests to assess students' worth? He probably found a high resolution generic image of a Scantron test, opened it up in Photoshop, removed the original text, found the font used on the form, and I mean, found the exact precise font. I don't see a difference between the first line of the text, which I'm assuming he didn't edit, and the second. Added the new text, then rotated it so it was aligned where the previous text was. And this author likely followed a pretty similar path. That is, they found a high-resolution scan of a dollar bill, or they took a high-res photo like with their phone and emailed it to themselves. Then they found the American money font face. They opened the dollar bill up in Photoshop, took out the word God, and added greed and spaced out the text on the bill to produce the argument. Another. And I hope you have a sense from the work we did for Module 3 of how this author created this visual argument. They found a painting representing Adam and Eve. They removed the apple. They found an image of a cell phone, pasted it in, and then probably resized and rotated it to fit in Adam's hand. So that's activity 2. Activity 3 is making something really ugly, and it's so much harder than it sounds. Here are some visually painful examples of past student work. Now, you can certainly start by Google image searching the word ugly, but don't stop there. Don't just download and submit something. I want you to create something fantastically ugly. Work with layers, work with filters, work with adding text, push at what you can do in Photoshop. Our last Module 4 activity is to work with screen captures. Screen captures are absolutely critical for flat or print instructions and procedures. For instance, imagine you've done a website development project with an organization and you want to turn the website over to them, but they'll need some instructions on updating the site and republishing or reposting revisions. Or you're working with a nonprofit to help them create a document management and file saving system on their internal storage network. Imagine explaining the instructions or steps to use that internal network using exclusively words. It'd be really hard to convey the information. Or imagine you're preparing a style guide for marking edits in Acrobat specific to the editing context in which you're working. So let's look at some example instructions and hone in on a few key features. These are brief instructions on how to create text effects in Word. There are 5 steps and 2 notes, and there are also 2 screen captures and 1 sample image in these quick instructions. Let's take a longer look at them. First, the software and operating system are specified in the instructions. Second, active directional verbs are used, as is common in our culture: select, highlight, look for, click. Third, there are clearly sequenced steps with 1 action item per step for clarity. Each figure is mentioned and referenced in text, and this doesn't always happen. For more aesthetic or artistic documents, figures may not necessarily be mentioned in text and labeled, but for workplace documents and especially things like instructions, this is really important. And each figure is clearly and consistently labeled across the instructions. The author has created an additional graphic element, the bright green circle around the icon in Word, to cue users' eyes to the specific element. Importantly, each screen capture is appropriately cropped. It's cropped so that we see a bit of surrounding detail that helps us find where we need to be, but not too much additional information. Here's a badly cropped screen capture. Users don't need to see the entire Word window when they're just being directed to 1 icon on the toolbar. Here's another bad example. Don't distract readers and users with your desktop. They don't need to see what apps you have open or what's sitting on your desktop. I want to share 2 examples created by students in the past. The first explains how to add alt text in Microsoft PowerPoint 2011 for Mac. The author does an excellent job here, including a brief discussion of why alt text is important and why you would want to embed it in a PowerPoint slideshow, along with an example explaining effective alt text. She said, for example, if I was writing a slideshow for a science conference and using the graphic to the right, I can't simply use the text science graphic, especially if I have an argument that I'm trying to make with the graphic. That's why descriptive alt text is important. This author also provides a bit of preface to her instructions on how to create a pie chart in Microsoft Word 2016 on a Mac. And each step is well written and clearly illustrated with a screen capture. Each screen capture is enhanced with a red circle to direct our eye. And this is consistently done across the instructions. Okay, to create a screen capture, you have to capture or grab a screen or window. To do so on a PC, open the window you want open or set up the screen as you want to capture it, and press the print screen button on your keyboard once. Toggle into Photoshop, create a new image, and paste in the capture. And Photoshop will automatically size the new image to the size of the capture that's hanging in your cache. On a Mac, you can either use a little utility program called Grab, or you can use keyboard commands. If you use Grab, you want to open the image you created and saved in Photoshop. If you use keyboard commands, you want to toggle into Photoshop and paste in the image. And there are tons of good, quick tutorials on taking screen captures on YouTube if you need more of a visual walkthrough of the steps. We're going to workshop Module 4, Activity 4 drafts on Thursday, and that's primarily what we're going to do for class on Thursday. There's no reading. My video is going to be pretty short. So you might start your Photoshop work with Activity 4 because the draft is due Thursday. For Thursday, before 10:20 a.m., upload your draft Module 4 activity in our shared Google Drive folder linked from D2L and into the Upload Your Module 4 Activity 4 draft here. I'll provide more instructions on Thursday for workshopping, but you'll be expected to workshop one other person's set of instructions and provide some comments and feedback. So the 4 required files for Module 4 are Words, Visual Argument, and Ugly, which should be uploaded to D2L as PNG or JPEG, and the short instructions with at least 2 screen captures, which should be uploaded in their final version to D2L as a PDF. All 4 of the required files are due this Sunday, November 1st, uploaded to D2L by 10 a.m. And remember, daylight savings time starts this Sunday, so we'll be falling back an hour. If you have time, there are 3 extra credit activities for Module 4. These are entirely optional, and you can do 1, 2, or all 3 if you like. The first is a Worth 1000 contest. Mate 2 movies. And here's some examples. Up in the Air. Saw, Actually. High School Seussical 3. P.S. I love Kung Fu Panda. A Few Good Minions. The second extra credit activity option is to design an inappropriate book cover. There have been some great examples floating around Twitter for a while now. One here is for Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, clearly designed by someone who has not ever read the essay. The second is the cover for Heart of Darkness, again, by someone who clearly hadn't read the book. So choose a book and create an inappropriate book cover. The third extra credit activity is to zombify yourself, which seems appropriate given that Halloween is this week. And there are tons of great tutorials online that you can follow to create effects like these. Activity 4, your album release party flyer. Created in PowerPoint is due by 5 o'clock today, uploaded to the Week 9 Tuesday folder on D2L. There's a Dropbox there. By 10:20 this Thursday, your draft instructions with at least 2 screen captures, well edited and well included, should be uploaded to our shared Google Drive folder for workshopping. That's our only work for Thursday. Between 10:20 a.m. on Thursday and Friday at noon, I'll ask you to workshop someone else's draft instructions, and I'll include some instructions for workshopping in Thursday's overview email. If you have any questions about Activity 4, please let me know. If you have any questions as you overview and get started on Module 4, especially prioritizing Activity 4, please let me know.